Everyone wants freedom, until freedom costs them everything. This is not a story about rebellion. It's a story about a son who thought he knew better, a father who loved too much, and a home that never stopped waiting. Whether you believe in God or not, you have lived this story. There was a man who had two sons. His house was a place of abundance. But abundance is not the same as contentment. But there was a time not so long ago when the three of them were whole, when the father would gather both sons at the end of the day, and they would sit together under the evening sky. The older son would report on the day's work with quiet pride. The younger son would ask questions that made his father laugh. And the father would look at both of them as if they were the only wealth that mattered. They would break bread together, pass the cup, tell stories of grandfathers and promises and land that had been in the family for generations. In those moments, the house was not just prosperous. It was home. The sons did not yet know how rare this was, how fragile. They thought it would last forever. But something was shifting slowly. Like a crack in a foundation you don't notice until the house starts to lean. The father was wealthy, yes. But his wealth was not what made him whole. It was his sons. The older son was steady, reliable. The kind of man who keeps the world turning. The younger son was fire. And fire, given enough air, will consume everything around it. But this morning, none of them knew. In 48 hours, this table would never be the same. Beyond the fields, there was a world of color and noise and freedom. Or so it seemed. Every story he heard made his father's house feel smaller. Every distant lamp made home feel dimmer. It's a strange kind of prison, isn't it? To be surrounded by love and still feel trapped. And so the question formed. The question that would break his father's heart. The older son never questioned. His inheritance was in the waiting. His identity was in the work. They were not enemies. But they were not quite brothers either, two sons. One who stayed because he should. One who would leave because he could. And neither truly knew the father's heart. The father loved his house. But the house was not what he loved most. He loved his sons with a love that asked for nothing, and would give everything. He had held them as children, carried them when they were tired, taught them the names of stars, and now they were men. And love, at this stage, love means letting them choose. Tomorrow, one of those lights would go up, and the father would begin the longest wait of his life. But tonight they were still all home. There are questions that change everything. Questions you cannot take back. He was about to ask one. Words failed him. Not because he didn't know what to say, but because part of him knew what it would cost. In that culture, in that time, this was not a request for early payment. It was a wish for his father's death. The father could have said no. He could have reminded his son of all he'd been given. He could have used his authority, his hurt, his love as leverage. But he didn't. Because love that holds onto tightly isn't love anymore. It's fear. And just like that, a son became a stranger. He didn't allow himself to feel it yet. The shame, the grief, the fear, that would come later. No one stopped him, and somehow that made it worse. The son left with his inheritance in his bag, and nothing else. And the father began to wait. Every day, he would stand at this spot, looking down this road, hoping. The journey to the far country felt like freedom. Every step away was a step toward himself. Or so he believed. The city was everything home was not. Loud where home was quiet. anonymous where home knew his name. Here, he could be anyone. Here, he could be free. And the money opened every door. Suddenly, he was important. Seen, celebrated. He had never felt more alive. And yet, days became nights, became days. And the faces around him. He couldn't remember their names. He wasn't sure they remembered his. Mornings were the hardest, because mornings were honest. He was surrounded by people, and completely alone. Wealthy, and entirely bankrupt. And then came the question he'd been avoiding. What happens when the money runs out? While the son was spending his inheritance in the far country, the father was spending his days waiting. Every traveler on the road became a possibility. Every figure in the distance became hope. And every sunset became another day of absence. Love does not stop when someone leaves. It waits. And waiting is its own kind of suffering. And then the famine came. Not all at once, but like a slow closing of doors. The friends who had celebrated him vanished. The doors that had opened so easily closed. And for the first time since he left, he had nothing to distract him from the truth. He was alone. He had never known hunger before. Not the kind that makes you bargain with yourself. Not the kind that makes you willing to do anything. In his culture, pigs were unclean. To work with them was to become an outcast. But an outcast with food is still alive. And so the son who once wore fine clothes and threw lavish parties became the keeper of pigs. They ate. He starved. They were cared for. He was forgotten.
And when he came to himself, he said, How many hired servants of my father's have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and before thee, and I am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants. So he turned toward home.
Every mile brought him closer to the truth he'd have to speak. He had left as a son demanding his rights. He was returning as a beggar, hoping for mercy. The hardest part was not the confession. The hardest part was believing there might still be a home to return to. The father had not stopped watching. Not for a single day. Not for a single night. Love is not passive. Waiting is not weakness. And hope is a choice you make every single day. And then, after all the days and nights of nothing, someone was on the road. He would know that walk anywhere, that particular tilt of the head, that way of carrying weight. It was his son. In that culture, men of his age and status did not run. It was undignified, shameful. He didn't care. The son opened his mouth to confess, to apologize, not to beg. But the father didn't let him finish. The son expected judgment. He received love. The son deserved rejection. He received embrace.
And the
But
son
the
said
father
unto
didn't
him,
let him
Father,
finish.
I have sinned against heaven
The son
and in thy
expected
sight,
judgment.
and I am no more worthy
He
to be
received
called
love.
thy son.
This is grace. The robe, a symbol of honor. The ring, a sign of authority. The sandals, the mark of a son, not a slave. He was not being hired. He was being restored. And so the celebration began. Not because the son deserved it, but because the father had never stopped loving him. While grace was being poured out in the father's house, another son was about to reveal his own kind of lostness. All those years, all that work, all that obedience. And for what? The older son had never left home. But he had never truly been home either. The father loved both sons. The one who ran away, and the one who stayed but resented every moment. The door was open. It had always been open for both of them. One son had to travel to a far country to realize he was lost. The other had been lost his entire life, standing right next to his father.
He
The
answered to his
story
father,
doesn't tell us what the
these
older
many
brother
years do I
chose.
serve thee, neither
The
transgressed I in
story
any time
doesn't
thy
tell us what
commandment,
the
and
older
yet thou
brother
never
chose.
gavest me a kid, that I might
The
make
story
merry with my
doesn't tell
friends.
us what
But
the
as soon
older
as this
brother
thy son
chose.
was come, which hath devoured
The
thy
story
living with
doesn't
harlots,
tell us
thou
what
hast
the
killed
older
for him
brother
the fatted
chose.
calf.
Maybe that's because his story isn't over yet. Two sons. One who knew he was lost, one who didn't, and one father who refused to give up on either.
The father
But the father
reassured the
didn't
older
let him
son,
finish.
and he said unto him,
The son
thou
expected
art
judgment.
ever with me, and all that I
He
have is
received
thine.
love. The question is not how far you ran. The question is not how long you stayed. The question is, will you come home?
Thank you so much for joining me for this story today. If it resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content that explores these powerful narratives of hope and transformation. We'll see you next time.